may be the smallest country on the African continent, but the Gambia is endowed with arable land, coastal and wetland habitats, as well as animal species of global significance. And now President Yahya Jammeh has plans to transform the country into a financial center, a tourist paradise and a trading hub. By tapping into this potential over a 25-year period, the West African nation aims to become a dynamic middle-income country that can compete on a global stage. But what exactly is President Jammeh's plan of action? And what challenges need to be overcome on the path to transforming the Gambia? I'm Beatrice Marshall. Welcome to Talk Africa. Now, the Gambia is situated on either side of the Gambia River, the nation's namesake, which flows through the center of the country into the Atlantic Ocean. Its liberal, market-based economy is characterized by traditional subsistence agriculture, a historic reliance on peanuts for export, and a re-export trade built up around its ocean port. Before we hear from the country's President Yahya Jammeh, here's a brief overview of the riverside nation of the Gambia.
Surrounded by Senegal on the west coast of Africa, the Gambia extends 338 kilometers from east to west and only 47 kilometers from north to south. After 200 years of British colonial rule, the Gambia gained its independence in 1965, and unlike other countries in the region, has enjoyed long spells of stability ever since. But the stability has not ensured prosperity. Only 1/6 of the land is arable, and poor soil quality has led to the predominance of peanuts over other crops. Tourism is a vital source of income for the nation, with most visitors drawn to the resorts that occupy a stretch of the Atlantic Ocean. While the Gambia is one of Africa's smallest nations, it's also amongst its poorest, ranking 168th out of 187 countries in the United Nations Development Programme's 2011 Human Development Index. Poverty is widespread, pervasive and predominantly rural. And it's for this reason that President Yahya Jammeh, who has been at the helm of the country since 1994, launched his Vision 2020 for the country. The vision seeks to transform the Gambia into a dynamic middle-income country, socially, economically and scientifically, over a 25-year period. It sets out the broad outline of policies to facilitate this through 6 major activity areas: agriculture, industry, trade, tourism, financial services, and human resource development. Through this plan, Jammeh and his government hope to harness the strength and potentials of the country for national socio-economic advancement.
Now, in March this year, foreign ministers of China and the Gambia signed a joint communique to resume diplomatic ties in Beijing. And the two countries have now resumed diplomatic relations at the ambassadorial level. And with the launch of Vision 2020, these are exactly the kind of international ties that President Yahya Jammeh is hoping to attract in order to transform the West African nation. CCTV Africa recently visited the Gambia to speak to President Jammeh about his vision of transformation.
You know, March this year is very significant because Gambia and China resumed the diplomatic relationship, and China also supports Gambia's effort in safeguarding its national sovereignty. So, Your Excellency, do you think that the two countries can further strengthen the political mutual trust and have more coordination and cooperation in regional and international affairs?
Tourism is the best school for cultural exchange. Most of the time we have most of the problems that we have today are thanks to lack of knowledge of each other's culture, lack of understanding of each other's culture. Through tourism, we learn about each other's culture. You see people in their natural setting, the way they live, we understand each other. Then we build friendship. Friendship that is built from the grassroots upwards would be a solid foundation for lasting world peace. It's not friendship at the level of government. Governments come and go, but the people stay. So tourism is very important in building a solid foundation for human peaceful coexistence, cultural understanding and mutual respect. So tourism is a very important aspect, as far as I'm concerned, of human activity. Not only the economic benefit that it brings, but more importantly, remember that no matter how developed a country is, a few weeks of, for example, maybe take 5 years to build something, and it takes 5 seconds for a rocket to demolish it. But if there is cultural understanding, there's mutual respect at the grassroots level that elect governments, I think there is great hope for lasting world peace. So I want to see all the people of the world come to the Gambia, the Smiling Coast, and also find out why we are called the Smiling Coast. I wouldn't answer that question if I'm asked, because I always want people to find out for themselves. So we want to see not only Chinese tourists coming to it, but we also want to see Chinese industrialists come and establish industries in Gambia and in the tourism sector, because it's very important. Yes. So Chinese are welcome, and they will always be welcome, because relationship between the two governments can be excellent, but what is more important, it has to go down to the people. I want a bottom-up building of relations than top-bottom building of relationship. You don't start a house from the roof, right? You start from the foundation down, and that is what we want. We want a very long-term, everlasting relationship with your great country. You've done so much for Africa. You've done so much for the Gambia. And so we can always count on you. You can always count on us.
We're going to take a short break now, but when we return, my expert guests will help further unpack the process of transforming the Gambia. To stay with us. Welcome back to Talk Africa. Now we continue our discussion on the transformation of the Gambia, and to add further insights, I have expert guests standing by. In Lagos, African Affairs analyst Achike Chude. In Beijing, Professor Ho Wenping. She's a research fellow at the Institute of West Asian and African Studies. And with me in Nairobi, Dr. Bob Wekesa. He's a postdoctoral fellow at the Wits University in Johannesburg. To you all, welcome to the program. Achike Chude in Lagos, let me start off with you. Give us an overview of the Gambia, though, because the Gambia is Africa's smallest country. It doesn't have much in the way of agriculture. It doesn't have much in the way of mineral resources. What are the prospects, though, for the Gambia?
Well, the Gambia, just like every other country that is evolving, would always have prospects. You have a people that are vibrant. You have a political leadership, at least on the basis of the 2020 vision, that seems to be interested in where Gambia will be in the next many years to come. And so I think that there is a very great prospect. We've had some level of political stability. Yahya Jammeh has been in power for quite some time. That shows some consistency, in the politics of that particular country. And if all the other dynamics, economic, social, and political dynamics go well, then they would enjoy the fruits of the consistency of his stay in power. So it is a country that is still evolving. And like I said, with regards to the 2020 vision, they seem to know exactly where they are going. But whether they are going to be able to achieve that is a completely different thing. But it would appear that the government is trying to galvanize the people towards achieving set goals and objectives. And if they are able to do that, then really they can, succeed in taking Gambia to the very next level.
Dr. Wekesa, though, it was Vision 2020 in 1996, and we are still, as we've heard from Achike Chude, waiting on the country to evolve. Your views, though, on their Vision 2020?
No, like you rightly put it, the Vision 2020 has been around for 20 years, and now there's just 4 years to go. In my view, perhaps while the vision, as like all visions, is a dream and of optimism for the future, it perhaps needs to be reworked. I think there's need for realism to the fact that this is a blueprint that was developed some 20 years ago, and it's now just 4 years to the duration during which it was supposed to have been accomplished. So I think there's need to be to rework it in terms of what are the new realities, global and internal to Gambia, what has changed that makes the need for revising it, to update it to the current times.
Well, Professor Howeng Ping, though, China recently re-established ties with the Gambia. It is Africa's smallest country. One has to ask, what is in it for China?
Well, yeah, even though the Gambia is the smallest country in the African continent, but it is still very important. You can see its strategic location. I think it's also on the way. Now China talk about the 21st century maritime Silk Road. I think this also links all the way to the coastal countries around those Western African countries. So with this restore of the relationship, diplomatic relationship, I think China now is willing to offer this economic help for Gambia to help them to realize this 2020 vision. Even though now there's only 4 years to go, a lot of missions needs to be finalized. So I think first of all, I heard that Chinese company now is willing to help Gambia to improve the energy supply program around the capital city Banjul, and with those energy power improvement, that will help a lot for people, their daily life, and also for their manufacturing industry, and also like infrastructure and the road, and even trying to help them to establish those aviation flights to link Banjul with the neighboring countries like Senegal, Nigeria. I think also medical care.
Right.
We all know in the year 2014, yeah, the Gambia's economy has suffered a lot by this Ebola disease, and also with other like drought. So this is very fragile economy. So
right.
we help them to build on their health system.
Achike Chude, let me just come back to what Professor Howeng Ping has mentioned there, the strategic location of the Gambia, strategically placed on the west coast, and it could be ideally a trade hub for that region, but it isn't. What is hindering the Gambia?
Yes, I think that is, I think the government recognizes that the fact that it has not been able to actually take Gambia to the next level. I know that they are desirous of turning Gambia into a financial center, a tourist paradise in their own words, and a place where exports of manufactured products from factories and then the agricultural sector becomes an export hub within the West African sub-region. But it has not, over the years, has not been able to achieve all of these goals. And I want to believe that it is because those who operate the political economy of Gambia have not exactly been very consistent, in putting their words into action. Every country has great opportunities and potentials, and the potentials are there. When you talk about the ecosystem, the marine life, the sea. These are things that elements of power, one would say, that are very critical in ensuring, national power, and so they need to do much more than they have done in the past, because, like we said, geographically, Gambia is in a very, very good, has a very good location, and if they're able to get their acts right, mobilize the people towards, having a positive national focus, there's always that possibility that they could actually transform, the Gambia into a into a trade hub within, that particular region of the subcontinent.
Dr. Wekesa, though the Gambia is not alone in Africa in being a small economy with lack of resources, lack of mineral resources, that is struggling to get by. 50 years down the line, though, after the independence of many African countries, how should we be looking at these countries? What is it that these countries need to do to take themselves to their next phases?
No, I think one is the fact that in terms of countries not having certain resources, like mineral resources, doesn't mean they don't have resources at all. To start with, quite a good number of countries just rely on the human resource alone. So, and the Gambia in this respect is endowed with a very good tourist, endowments. It has a very good agricultural land. It's actually the economy that relies quite a lot on things like peanut production. I think for me, what's holding back the Gambia is governance. And the fact that it has not really had very good relations with, for example, its immediate neighbor, Senegal, which actually surrounds it, as it were, is a big kind of drawback. The fact that it has also had conflicts with its partners in the ECOWAS region, the Economic Community of West African States. And the fact that it has not had diplomatic relations with major powers. For example, in fact, for that reason, the coming on to the scene of China is a huge plus, and it will have many, positives, many potential, hanging fruits that can be picked almost immediately. One, because China, with its financial and economic heft and its willingness to help on friendly, mutual benefit terms, will only spur, Gambia to have one, a model, two, tap into the resources that China can bring on through, for example, the One Belt, One Road initiative, using the Banjul city as a hub to, for example, to be a seaport that can be of note in that part of the world. So in sum, for me, Gambia has to perhaps look very clearly on its governance internally and also its international relations. How does it relate to the rest of the world?
In terms of its international relations, Professor Ho Weng Ping, though, and the recent re-establishment of ties between Gambia and China, though, where do you see the leverage for China and where do you see the leverage for the Gambia?
Well, yes, as my colleagues Bob has mentioned, China is quite a big country. Now the Gambia has established a good relation with, but I would say Gambia has not only has like a big power like China has. Gambia also has other resources, like last year he had changed its name as Islamic country, so it has got quite a lot of financial support coming from Middle East country, like Saudi, like Qatar, Kuwait, those countries. So those Gulf countries also can offer a lot of financial support to Gambia. So with China now also engaged in, I think of course, as Bob also mentioned, the One Belt, One Road is maritime, 21st Silk Road strategy will of course put Gambia as a very important point for China's those initiative delivery. So China will certainly offer our technical know-how and also our infrastructure competitive advantage to help Banjul to establish many those infrastructure projects. For example, I mentioned this power supply project is very key for the Gambia. It will also improve people's livelihood, their daily life. And also Gambia, I think even though it's small, but small sometimes is very beautiful thing. So they should further develop their potential, like a fishing industry, like the very good those agricultural potential, and also those tourism. Nowadays, recently I joined some Chinese tourist package to go abroad. I think now there are many Chinese now would like to go to Africa to have a look. So this tourist industry, they can make it combining with other countries like Senegal, those ECOWAS countries. So make it becoming a tour package for traveling all around those Western African countries. And then they can, if they can enjoy like single visa And then you got one visa for ECOWAS, and then you can visit all the members of ECOWAS countries. That will be a big boost, I think, for the tourist industry in Gambia as well, including other countries in Western Africa.
Chudi, of course, there are a few pluses here for the Gambia, though, but the notable ones that stand out at the moment are tourism and its peanut production, though. How do you diversify an economy, though, like the Gambias, where they have limited resources at this point?
Yes, well, the reality is that Zambia has always had a robust tourism industry, but unfortunately, in the past few years, that has been declining, just like so many other things have been declining. And it's, of course, you know that this decline is not just in Zambia alone. The rest of Africa and then the world, there has been this global economic decline, and that has also hit the Gambian industry. I think some data or statistics says that the industry has declined by as much as 70%. Again, the global tourism industry has taken a hit as a result of the acts of terrorism across the globe. And but I think one of the wonderful things in terms of tourism, for instance, for Gambia is that in terms of stability, political stability, the Gambia has been relatively stable. Even though you have pockets of opposition, parties here and there, which is normal, which is expected at in the 21st century, So with political stability, you have security, and it is funny because or remarkable that where you think that terrorism would thrive less in countries that are small as Gambia. We've had it in other bigger countries, but somehow they have been able to ensure that there's relative security in the area of tourism, and that is the greatest driver of tourism. Security, when people get into a place and they realize that they can be safe in such a place, and you don't have too many places like that in the African continent. So I think they've done well at that particular level and can take it to the very next level. Then you also have, but again, there are all kinds of issues too. The issue of infrastructure. There is still a lot of infrastructural deficit in the Gambia, and I think that the government needs to work on that. And that is the good thing about the partnership that it has with China, because this is one area where the Chinese have serious expertise and can bring this expertise to bear and in boosting the economy, the tourism industry, and the agriculture in the Gambia.
All right, Bob Wekesa, though, a few issues here have been mentioned, and one of the ones I want to draw on is the blueprint of the Vision 2020. Again, because there is no lack of visions across the continent. Many countries coming up with a Vision 2020, 2030, 2063 for the continent. In terms of the Gambia, though, itself, and in its attempts to move forward, what are the areas that they should be concentrating on in their Vision 2020?
I think the Vision 2020, which, like I suggested earlier, badly needs revision because it's just 4 years away. In my opinion, one of the strategic areas that they can tap on is their location. Like Professor Hauenping mentioned, Banjul is right there on the Atlantic Ocean, and therefore the seagoing opportunities can make it a hub for for the entire region if they strategize. Just like countries such as places such as Dubai have become, and Shanghai, the city in Beijing, and others have become, and Singapore have become, they thrive on being logistics hubs, kind of being sea lines for supply of goods and products and so forth. That's particularly important, I think, for me, for the Gambia. But secondly, I think being a small country has advantages, and they can actually learn from countries such as Rwanda, countries such as Botswana, which are equally small, countries such as Seychelles, which is even smaller than the Gambia, that have actually boosted their human resource, and therefore, education, skills, and in fact, this is an area in which China can come in to help in terms of skills advancement, so that the population is highly educated, highly skilled. It's a small population, and you can actually manage that in comparison to a country such as Nigeria or South Africa or Kenya, for example, which are bigger countries such as Ethiopia. Educating the population with big numbers is much more a challenge than it is in a place such as Gambia. So as it is currently, the Gambia is actually number 151 out of the 194 UN member states in terms of human development index, meaning it's at a very low level. So this is an area in which the blueprint perhaps could focus on to, to boost that. And of course then
right.
It's historical endowments, it's tourist attractions are a resource that can then be tapped as well. But I think the important thing is go back to the drawing board and kind of come up with a new blueprint, because you don't have much time left before the end of the term at 2020.
Right. Professor Ho Weng-Ping, you have the final word on this, though. And if you were to speak to the Gambians themselves and to the Gambian authorities, though, what do you think it is that they should be leveraging in their relationship with China? What should they be seeking from China at this point?
I think Gambia, they should stick to their 2020 vision, because this blueprint has rightly put forward their three potentials, their three pillars they would like to insist. One is the trade hub, another is like agriculture potential, another is the tourists. So all those three, I think China can offer help. Like trade hub, now China would like to build like infrastructure connectivity, and also those function for those infrastructure connectivity is trying to make this flow of commodity, flow of people in a most smooth way. So Banjul, because with this very good geopolitical location, now it has a harbor, not like the Luanda. Luanda is a landlocked country, but Gambia has its very good harbor and a good location. So they can develop this as a trade harbor for the regional countries there. And the second is agriculture. I think they have now we would like to open Chinese market for importing Gambias, like those nuts, coconuts, and also agricultural products. Now also develop those value added, those agricultural products. So not only those raw material, and to put the value on. And a third one we have mentioned already, the tourists. So they just need to focus on those three pillars. I think without natural resources, it's not a bad thing. Actually, we have seen a lot of countries, they have been fell in the trap called the the resources curse, rather than the resources blessed. So without the resources, actually I think it's a good thing, and which maybe that's one of the reasons why Gambia can maintain long-term stability and maintain the security without like some Western African countries.
Right.
They fell into the conflict, like diamond, fighting for the diamond, fighting for those oil. So all of those shortcomings we just mentioned, like small, resources, very few resources, actually can make use of them as an advantage, and then to make a takeoff.
Right, Professor Ho Weng-Ping, we'll leave it there for the moment, and that's all we have time for this week. But thank you to my guests for their insights. In Lagos, African Affairs analyst Ashike Chude. In Beijing, Professor Ho Weng-Ping, she's a research fellow at the Institute of West Asian and African Studies. And with me in Nairobi, Dr. Bob Wekesa, he's a postdoctoral fellow at Wits University in Johannesburg. I do thank you for being on the program. And remember, you can join the conversation at home through Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And do join us again next week for another edition of Talk Africa. Goodbye.